All right, so one thing that's super nice for a paperless classroom is knowing how to use Canvas Speedgrader, because for an English teacher, for instance, I would usually get, 90 papers all stacked at the end of whatever the paper cycle is, and then I'd have to carry that stack around. That's nice because obviously, you kind of see that stack and you know what you have to do and all that kind of stuff. So there is that kind of memory component to it. But I think once you get yourself trained on checking Canvas and knowing that the kind of alerts are there to help you, you really don't need that reminder, that physical reminder as much, because you still have work to do, of course. So I'm going to show you kind of the two ways that I prefer to grade on Canvas and maybe the benefits of each and why I tend to use one more than the other. So I'm just going to show you here what my journalism students are doing in our class. This is our Canvas page, and I'm always going to see the work I have to do over here on the right. It's actually similar to what our students see. They see a to-do list, and I'll show you that on my iPad next. But if I need to grade any of this, I can just click on this and Speedgrader comes up and it shows me different students' work. It also shows me if it's late, which is super nice. I used to get this a lot of times where a student would run in, at the end of the day or something and say, here's my paper, is it late? And you'd have to have that conversation. This is kind of nice because it just, stamps when the submission was, so you know that at all times. Also, if you are kind of allowing that student to turn in something late, you don't have to wait for that paper copy, especially if it's a Friday or something like that. They can just submit it online. So that's very helpful from a paperless standpoint. So obviously up in the top right, I can see which submission this student submitted. I can see the file if I actually want to download it and print it off, which doesn't make a ton of sense, but I could do that if I wanted to. I can also download all of the PDFs from students under the assignment, and I can show you that in a different tutorial. But then otherwise, it gives me what pages I can look at here. This is a very long article that she's writing about kind of the final decision on the mascot for this school. And so it has a lot of stuff going on there. But I can go through those different pages. I can also just scroll down, obviously, and look at the different pages. Now, my favorite features here is obviously the rubric. If you haven't explored rubrics in Canvas, they make grading a lot easier because you can give those broad feedbacks more quickly, and it gives clarity for the students about exactly why you are giving that information to them, what that 8 means versus what that 10 means. There's a whole kind of world of rubric justifications and knowledge and strategies and purpose. So I'll leave that for another conversation, but making rubrics is super helpful for you and I think for the student. And if I want to grade this essay, and let's say I didn't want to give any written feedback or something, I can just go through here, tap these numbers, and then push save, and it calculates the grade automatically, and I have that mark. If I want to do differentiations between the 8 and the 10, I can say it's a 9, and I can even give further comments here if I don't think the rubric fully justifies what I'm giving. So it's really adaptable to adjustments if you need to do that. There is a setting on your rubric when you make the rubric that allows you to set kind of that scale, a range it's called. So if you need help with that, feel free to ask, but I'll leave that for a different video on how to make rubrics. But hopefully you're familiar with that. Rubrics are super great for Canvas, and I'll show you that on the iPad why that works really well there. The other things that are nice, that are new oftentimes for people when they see Canvas and haven't used Speedgrader a lot, is obviously you can add comments and you can type those in and keep going and keep typing those. But a nice feature that they have here is you can save those comments in a comment library. And I could just click this and it would post that into the comments area. So after you type out a comment, you have the option to add it to your library. And then you're going to have a whole list of comments here that you can use kind of in perpetuity if you copy your class over, which is very convenient. Next, the other thing I tend to use a lot is this media comment here. So if I click this one, I can record media. Now, I don't use the webcam ever, so I just click on no video, but I can record with a mic just an audio kind of verbal commentary on their paper or their assignment. If I want to offer a little bit more nuance, then I think I'll get through the tone of just writing it there. So I can start recording, it'll record through that mic, and then it will post here and the student could listen to it. Then lastly, the thing that I tend to use a lot on the computer as I'm grading is I have these kind of, they look like the flags you'd have in like Google Maps, but it just allows you to kind of mark a spot on the essay that you want to leave a comment for. And so that is a kind of a general area. You can change it from red if you want. And I should say, the other one that I use often is this highlight feature. This is really similar to Google Docs, which I like when I'm editing things, but I could highlight something in here and then give a little bit of a comment on the side as I go forward there. To my knowledge, these comments aren't repeatable, so that's unfortunate. I hope that's in like an update or something like that. But it does allow you to pretty quickly go through and just highlight things and say, you might want to revise this specific sentence, because over on the side, obviously the rubric isn't going to get to that detail level. So that might be worth doing. I also tend to use the strike tool, which if you highlight something when you're on the strike tool, it will literally strike it out for you. And that tells the student, of course, that you don't need it there. And then the other ones I don't tend to use. You can type information, but I tend to want to use this little marker and then write a comment in there instead of writing it directly into their document. So those are a lot of the benefits of Speedgrader as far as it is on a PC, which is where I tend to grade the most. But I'm also going to show you on the iPad some of those benefits. Now, before I go, I just remember there's one last thing I did want to show you, and that's down at the bottom. This is a really convenient feature. If, for instance, the student submitted it, you looked at it and you said, there's still some work you need to do on this, but I don't want to close your grade for this assignment. I don't want to say that this is the final score you're getting and they have to kind of like resubmit and all that stuff. So I can actually say reassign the assignment here, and it basically like reopens it. So the student sees it then in their to do again. They don't have the sense that they finished it. It reappears there for them, and they know they need to follow up with something. Maybe they have to rewrite it. They have to do whatever it is. So you can actually reassign that there. Okay, let me show you what it looks like on the iPad and some of the benefits for the iPad here. So one of the keys with your iPad is you got to have an Apple Pencil. These help a ton because it helps with your writing, which you'll see in a second. They're not cheap, and there's a whole bunch of different versions of them, but it does help a ton when you're actually doing this work on an iPad. So I'm going to go to my education area where I just kind of keep everything that we might be using for school, and then that teacher app. In the teacher app, obviously it'll oftentimes start at your courses, and you could click on a course like AP English and then go through all your different kind of course things. But similar to what the students do, if you go down to do, it'll show what you need to grade. And I can tap on journalism as well, because that's what we've been looking at. And it brings up a different way to grade through Speedgrader, but all the same stuff there. So I have my rubric on the side, which I can look up through. I can hold on different elements and see what those elements mean. So what a full mark means versus what an 8 means. So if I just hold on, then it gives the information there that I might want. I can also look at any comments made by the student. I can add a comment, and you can literally just write in there like, good job. And it will actually translate that nicely into that whole area, which is cool. And then I can undo that. And then I can look at the files that are attached. So it gives you a lot of good options there on the right side. Now, a really cool feature is if I take my pencil and I just swipe from the right to the left over in the rubric area, I can just go to the next student as well. So, and then if I do vice versa, go from the left to the right, I can get back to that last one. Here's where a lot of teachers like this. I was talking to a math teacher who uses this with her math classes. And what she likes to be able to do is actually highlight or draw on the document. And this is a benefit on the iPad over on the computer, because I can go up to the top and click on, for instance, this brush tool, and I could circle things. Oops, sorry, I just got off that. I could circle things. I could draw arrows to something. I could handwrite and say, what, whatever that might be. I can do all of those different writing, annotating kind of elements that I might not be able to do on a computer, and that I might like to do with an actual paper document, because you have that sense that you're interacting. If I just pinch out, I can zoom in and I could do really close level stuff. So English teachers, for instance, I might say, is this require, or whatever that is. So I can really get in tight there. The reason I don't tend to do this too often is, one, I'm at my computer a lot, so it's kind of easy for me to just be at my keyboard and I can type really quickly with my keyboard. And then number two, my handwriting's not great, so students can't always read it. And there's always that horrible time when I pass back papers in the old days, and I'd have to say, like, I can translate my handwriting, which isn't really fair for the students. So you can also do this writing to text mode. So if I did worry about my handwriting and it said, like, what does this mean? This mean, it will actually try to translate that. It gets a little bit clunky, as you can see there, and that's why I don't tend to love that as well. And I would probably just do handwriting if I were to do that at all. Then, of course, when you're not selected on any of the tools, you can just scroll through with your Apple Pen, and you can highlight just like you can highlight in anything else. And that's actually, I think, a lot faster than it is on the computer. And that's kind of a benefit to this. So for a math teacher, for a teacher who might not be grading papers, if you're grading calculations, if you're grading maybe science labs, something like that, the ability to draw or the ability to write out equations might be really helpful. But again, that Apple Pen is kind of the critical component you have to have for using that with Speedgrader on your iPad. So that's just another option that you have here with kind of different ways of grading, so that you don't have to lug around all those papers. You don't have that potential of misplacing any papers. There's always that horror story of some teacher putting their papers on the top of their car, leaving the parking lot, and the papers go flying, right? So you just don't really have all of those kind of elements that go into having all those papers. It's also really convenient because, for instance, I was at the airport recently and I had my phone and I was able to go through some kind of low stakes assignments that the students turned in, and I was able to kind of read through them briefly and give them a number on the rubric and move forward. So I'm still able to give them feedback, but I'm able to do it when it's convenient for me, when I'm just kind of sitting there and I'm going to watch like a YouTube video or something anyway, so I can just knock out some of that grading versus carrying around that stack to the thing that I'm going to. And then if you have your iPad with you, again, it's a thin kind of portable functioning device that you could maybe use instead of carrying your laptop everywhere. So there's a couple options. If you have questions about those, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I referred to the math teacher there. That's Laura Schick over in math. If you want to talk to her, I'm sure she'd be really open to talking to you about how she grades with math, if that's more suitable to you as well.